Okay, so today I did the reel that I felt like I was supposed to do for like the past 3 days. Finally sucked it up and went ahead and tried to post it, and it's still processing on Instagram. I didn't give myself time to doubt it and all that crap today. Today I went straight to fuck it, we're putting it. Made sure everything was coherent enough and tried to load it. And it was still processing. So rather than just sitting there and waiting on Instagram to see if it does everything right, I'm going to go ahead and get sidetracked with my video for a little bit and hope that it does its thing over there. And here's this coolness. So, okay, I'm going to flip the camera. Right there. All the way. My little vulture friend. There were several of them over there. Well, I mean, there were 4 of them over there earlier, and the car drove by, and 3 of them took off. And then as I was walking over to this tree, I realized that the other 3, actually, no, 2 of the others were in a tree, and then that one flew off when I walked past it and went up to the tree. So I got some really cool pictures of the vultures in the tree, as well as over there eating whatever it is they're eating. But no, I'm a big fan of the vulture, and I feel like that's it's actually right on par for this, having done the Instagram reel thing, because you know I talk a lot about vultures as transmuting death into something else, right? Like they get nourished however you say that fucking word, since I suddenly can't speak, and or by the carcasses, and you know it sustains their life. So they've turned something potentially, I mean, usually leave things around rotting all the time, then that leaves it open to have rot, and that's not good. So going along with this point that, you know, I've always been dragging my feet on doing the thing, the hard thing, which is transmuting. You know, it's my way of putting some sort of creative something out in the world, even if it's just me talking about things for the bit. So anyway, that was a whole lot of complicated wordage early on in the video. So yeah, I actually was thinking about that as I was walking over here, because there were the 4 that were over there, and I've seen them, you know, they take off and fly, and they'll like go real low by where I'm at, and it's really cool to watch. But there's like at least 4 or 5 others that have been around nearby, not going to that spot. So, you know, then that tree over here, way zoomed in again. This tree is the one that I was sitting by the other day, where I discovered there was a dead squirrel over there. It looks like something's probably been eating it, but there's still enough of it there. I don't want to sit over there. So yeah. So here we are by this tree, and I did not do a walk around, so I don't really know that there's not anything on the other side of it or whatever, but here we are. Anyway, been feeling a little sassy today. So it is Mercury retrograde as well, so that's probably not real helpful. But okay, so I talked a lot about how I do respite care with Gracie, and that's kind of been my main means of employment for a while I'm trying to open myself up to new possibilities, and you know, creating something I would rather do that I could enjoy with my life, right? As far as, you know, rather than going somewhere and just punching the clock all the time and all that crap. You know, and I talked about when I turned 40, got the nose ring and the lip ring. I did so setting the intention that I would never again work in a job that asked me to be anything less than 100% who I am. And it is a good thing this respite care thing is coming to an end. I mean, not because, you know, Gracie won't be around. That's a bummer on that end, since she's going to be in Oklahoma and all that, and I'll have to figure something out otherwise here. Okay, so I had this note that I turned in, and I clocked in late for the appointment time yesterday because I got distracted with Gracie and her little friends when I walked in over at my brother's house, right? So got distracted with that. Didn't get clocked in until I'd been there for like 15 minutes. So what I've been able to do in the past is make a note that I started sooner than I actually clocked in at. Like they were taking it as I clocked in. Okay, yesterday I clocked in at 3:51, but I was there at 3:35 before they accepted that. Today, the girl was telling me that they couldn't accept that because they could only take it from where I actually clocked in. It's like, despite the fact that we've done this other ways in the past, right? It's like, I don't know if it's something the state's cracking down on it where they don't want the adjustments or whatever, but suddenly it's an issue. And the way she was talking about it was, I get what she's saying, but it's also borderline condescending how she was coming at it. And I don't know if that's necessarily because she was in a condescending state of being, or maybe she's got other shit going on that's influencing how she was talking and all that stuff. And it is Mercury retrograde, so it could be that even. But it was just coming across real condescending, and it was really hard not to just like poke back and stir the pot. And I did to a degree, because I was like, okay, so despite the fact that this has been okay in the past, we're suddenly not okay with it now. And then she's like talking about, well, it's like any job where you clock in and clock out and blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, see, when I worked at the group home, we always were talking when we first walked in. And if there was a client in the middle of whatever was going on, like say you come into the office and the client's in there because the client's been lashing out or whatever, and suddenly it's necessary to participate in that conversation before you get clocked in, the times were able to be adjusted, right? So it's like something that's been this ongoing thing that was okay all along the way, or through various jobs in my lifetime. It's like now it's suddenly this big thing that no, we were never supposed to be doing that way. It's like, well, you were going along with doing that way before, but now it's like she wasn't acknowledging that it was happening before. We're just starting at, we were never supposed to do that. It's like, okay, sure. But I was having some struggles because I really wanted to like mouth off further, but I'm trying not to just be a bitch to this girl either, because she's like, God, maybe 24, and my supervisor, and I'm 42, and it's like the numbers aren't that big of a deal. It's just the way that she was approaching it. You're just kind of like, but and then it kind of felt like there's a certain amount that she feels like she has to crack down because she's the supervisor, if that's what she's not actually a supervisor, she's just kind of the one I got to report to. But I don't know, I mean, we went like a month without talking to each other, so it's like, nah. And she was still signing off on notes and whatnot, so okay. But yeah, it's just really strongly feeling like it's a good thing this is coming to an end. It's kind of weird the way that it's playing out, because the car insurance that they have on file for me expires today, so I have to get that updated, obviously, because I'm going to, whatever time I have with Gracie in the next week, I'm still able to count that, but I have to prove that I'm still insured before I can continue on that end. But then it's like, we're so close to it not being relevant anymore, because I'm definitely not sticking around once the situation's going. They said that if I wanted to stay on with their organization, they could find me other clients. And I was just, I was just thinking about everything. It's like, no. It's like, it's been jacked up enough with just me and Gracie, just from the standpoint of there's so much confusion with the family drama. Like all the stuff I've talked about with my family on here, my dad having his strokes, and we're not entirely sure he's not still having more, because he's not tracking. And it's like, just with everything else that's going on that has complicated the time with Gracie and complicated getting the hours and, submitting everything when it was supposed to be done or whatever. It's like, there's no way I'm trying to do that and be responsible to other people that are outside of the family, because this whole family dynamic has complicated the fuck out of everything. And like, I know there was a meeting not that long ago that I forgot about, and then my brother reminded me at the last minute. It's like, fuck, I forgot. I'm on my way. So it's just like, because a lot of times, essentially, my brother's kind of my boss in a way, but not. It's just a team thing, right? So it's like, we're all communicating for Gracie's needs and, what we're seeing of her and how we can best help her, kind of thing. So it's like, there's different layers to what all's necessary for this thing. So it's like, I really just don't want to try to complicate things with people that I'm not related to, because the family that I'm still having to live with is still complicating things enough as it is. And yeah. So when Gracie's in Oklahoma, I'm done with the respite altogether. And that's not a bad thing. It's just one of those things. It's like, it's at least been something that was there as a source of income. But, obviously that's ending the one source of income. So it's like, okay, so now I'm looking at, what's going on and how to, what I'm going to do on the financial side of things, and, hoping to piece things together in a way that's beneficial, but not really knowing what that looks like. So yeah. But, okay, going back to the feisty thing. Yesterday, I was having some, I mentioned to my mom, it's like, if he keeps going the way that he's going, he's not going to be able to stay here. Because, okay, she took him to a doctor's appointment yesterday. And I don't know if he didn't take his cane or if he just forgot it, but she ended up at one point getting him a wheelchair and hauling him around that way. But when he went to stand up in the waiting room, he stumbled and almost took out their curtains because he grabbed the curtain. This isn't stroke new. This is stuff that he's done. It was not that long ago, and it was before the strokes, where he was standing up. He decided to sit on the floor at my brother's house, and when he went to stand up, he stumbled and grabbed onto the shelf over the fireplace and pulled it off the wall. So it's not new. It's just the clumsiness is enhanced. And as I've said multiple times, I think that's largely because me and my brother are not allowing them to have access to our energy to drain the good from us to compensate for their going downhill. And it's kind of a weird... okay, so what happened yesterday? That happened yesterday. When they got back from their appointment, I saw that they were home, and I went outside for a minute, and my mom said, "You might help him. He's been stumbling all over the place." And mind you, I ain't trying to let my family touch me. Talked about that a lot too. It's like I feel like that's one of those ways that energies latch on and don't want to let go, right? So I, especially with my family, I have no interest in allowing them to touch me. Whether it's the arm, whatever, no, not interested. So he's starting to get out, and it's like, "Where's your cane?" He didn't know. It's like, well, hold on and let me find something. So I went into where I had seen one, just to find that they had moved that one and put it in the car, the car that my brother's borrowing, because obviously that's a necessary place for it at the moment. So rather than by the furnace in the garage where I would have been able to grab it and hand it to him in that moment, it wasn't there. So I went inside and I found the walker. It's like, hey, even better. So I got the walker and I went and took that out there. Mom said that's probably a good idea. I hand it to him, and he still almost stumbles as he gets out of the car, but is able to catch himself, all that stuff. And then, of course he says, "Well, I'll let you go first." Well, of course I was going to go first because I had to clear the path. Because of course my mom brought all that extra shit we didn't need to shrink the path in the garage that we were supposed to be able to walk through. So, I'm clearing stuff out of the way. And I opened the door to the house to set something down. And in that time, he trips over the one thing that I hadn't gotten moved yet because I had my hands full and starts stumbling over this pile of stuff in the garage. Of course, I'm not trying to grab on. Not trying. He's got the fucking walker right there, and he did catch himself. I mean, he was, for God's sakes, he was like cutting through the path of shit. And I'm, okay, where he's at now, he's had the strokes, so if you want to use that as the excuse, fine. However, it's some dumb shit that he would have done before. Just cutting through the path like he, thinks he can do something spectacular, but then it's really just to have an issue and make you cooperate with him, with his neediness, and all that crap. And I was just like, nope, not doing it. So he's able to collect himself, and he gets in the house, and Taz is there barking because, he's walking with the walker, and Taz doesn't know what's going on, but he just saw him just about wipe out in the garage, and he's a herding dog, so he barks at a lot of shit. So he was there barking, and so my dad starts trying to hit him with the walker. He's like, "Leave my dog alone. Go sit your ass on the chair." And apparently there was an ordeal. I don't know if he messed himself in the truck or when that happened, but apparently, my mom comes through with clothes after he sits down on the couch and says, "Get up and go in the bathroom," because she's going to help him change. And it was just like a whole freaking ordeal. But then I saw there was a cane on the floor. I had tripped over it the other day because it was on the floor and shoved it back into his pile of nonsense at his desk. I was like, okay, here's one. So, I gave that to my mom as she was going through. and was like, here, have a stick. So she was dealing with that, right? So anyway, we're talking last night. It's like, he is not far from a freaking assisted living or nursing home. It's like, this is not a good situation. And she starts talking about how we can't do that. If you have any assets, they'll take them, and blah, blah, blah. And, it's like $6,000 for this or that, and all that kind of stuff. It's like, and what I was thinking wasn't very nice. But what I was thinking was something to the effect of, then just give up the fucking ghost. You don't give a shit about living anyway. I didn't say it. I thought it. And it's just like, that's been one of the biggest things that I've talked about on here. There's been so much that's come back to my complicated relationship with my father, and realizing that I wasn't supposed to have a life because I existed for the sole purpose of my family sucking the life out of me so they could live longer and I don't get any kind of life. And that's bullshit. But then I was thinking how that's kind of like everything that's going on in the world right now, particularly this freaking country. It's like the ones that we would all be better served by them just not still being here, are still trying to suck the life out of those of us that would like to have lives. It's like we come to this existence we're supposed to be able to create something, right? We're co-creators with the divine, and it's like, what do you want to experience in your life, and start putting the intentions out there to, whether you know what it is you want to experience, or whether it's setting the intention to learn and find things that you would like to experience. I've talked a lot about how until December, after I started talking to my brother about everything I was noticing as I was setting boundaries with the family, and he started noticing it, it's like I saw no way out. I thought I was just doomed to be forever stuck, right? So then in December, what happened was my sister-in-law said that if they found somewhere and moved, I would be more than welcome to join them and go with them, right? So I could have a chance to build a life somewhere else, right? And with the lack of anything until that point, it was like, it was enough to make space for the possibilities and to start considering, if I could go anywhere, where would I go? It's not to Oklahoma. It's just not. I asked where they were looking at, and they were looking at places like Oklahoma, Texas, Florida. I was just like, yeah, none of those places say any or feel like they call to me at all. And I mentioned to my brother Pennsylvania, and that was kind of an intriguing idea to him. But, and I feel like, especially after I put that out there, I think my sister-in-law was less inclined to be open to other options and more inclined to lock down on the ones, Oklahoma particularly, because that's where her brother's at. But it's just like, yeah, I don't want to go there. Not that there's anything wrong with it. Had lots of family go through there and live there for a while. Just not for me. Especially in that situation where, I've talked about that a little bit too. I don't think that would be an ideal situation for me or my sister-in-law. I've talked about, she has some things about her that remind me of my mother. And I'm not trying to trade my mother for an off-brand version of my mother. It's like, I already know that it is what it is with my mother, and I'm not going to change her. I've spent my entire life turning against myself because I thought I was somehow bad because I could never live up to what she was requiring or demanding of me. And it's like, so I just turned it in on myself. But at least now that I'm aware of it, and now that I'm seeing how it's all been connected and how things, how how that's all panned out, and appreciating the fact that I feel like when I leave the situation, I don't want to come back at all, any capacity. Like, I'll probably just disconnect with my mother completely, and potentially most of the rest of my family, that I feel would at all be giving her information about me should I be out of the neighborhood. Just because if she knows anything about what's going on, all that would do is leave her open to send the negative energy to my way, and I don't want that either. I have no interest in having the continued negativity be dumped on me, even if it's just at an energetic level, because that's huge. Even though you can't see it as much, it's still a huge thing, and I don't want to be part of it. So it's like realizing with my ex, the only way to give myself a chance was to fully disconnect from him and, everybody that I'd met through him. Even though I knew his family liked me better than him. In spite of that, they were still his family, right? So they're going to be his flying monkeys to some degree anyway. So if they found out anything about me, then they would, whether even it's just, letting him see my Facebook page and seeing how I'm not doing any good or whatever. And I have nothing to show for it yet, because of course Facebook is like, I'm not sharing anything there. Might share these pictures of those vultures that I took a little bit ago, but that's it. Otherwise, yeah. But yeah, so the conversation with my mom about my dad and her acting like it was like, we're just stuck. And it's like, yep. It just really, at that point of, like, especially within the country, how it's like the old decrepit white guys that aren't doing anything worthwhile for the whole, they're only out to benefit themselves, don't want to just die off even though they're not doing anything useful other than blocking the rest of us from being able to create something better. It's like they want no part of that. So like they found all these ways to suck the lives out of the younger generations so they can stick around longer and not try to build anything worthwhile. That's bullshit. So yeah, so then this conversation happens, and I'm just like, he doesn't want to be here anyway, so he could just, like, I'm not saying off himself, I'm saying allow himself, at the soul level, give himself permission to let things go on without him. Because it's still, like, it's a fight. Like, it was a fight with my grandfather. My grandfather, who was around obsessing over his death for 33 years and not doing a damn thing other than making everybody obsess over his death with him. And it's like, me as the one who really didn't want to just continue in that existence, I become the family scapegoat and get dumped on, so because I was the one that was going to destroy the illusion, because that illusion is fucked up, and nobody really wants to be part of that illusion. They just don't think that there's any other better option. So yeah, that sucks. Right, so it's just me thinking in this direction of, if all these people just, realize that they're not benefiting anybody, themselves or anybody else, and just let go. When I was taking the classes when I started taking the classes at Interpath, Lenita was talking about noticing the energy changes around COVID, and that it was a whole, it's like people that were holding on, staying bound to, this idea that things could only ever be this one way. It's like a mass exodus of people dying off, but it's for the purpose of lightening the load on the earth, and for those of us that are still here to try to build something different, right? So yeah. Anyway, so going back to that video that I did, or the reel that I did, it's like, I was talking about how it's like I spent my whole life paralyzed to the idea that if I wasn't able to do everything perfectly the first time, if I didn't have all the pieces, I couldn't do anything. But that's exactly what that illusion basically stands to block us from. It's to keep us in this idea that it's not worth it to do anything if you don't have enough of the information for what you're doing. But essentially, since we're co-creating with the divine, it's, what do you want to experience? And then, as like me in the moving situation, it's like I didn't know that there was anything possible for me to possibly get out of that situation, right? But then the offer from my sister-in-law was enough to get my wheels turning and be like, okay, so if I could, where would I go? That's, I still think that I'm going to end up, at least for a time, in Pennsylvania, like Philly area. But whether that's a forever thing, not necessarily. Since I've been open to the possibilities, it's like, now I'm seeing like, okay, what if I lived part-time between different spaces, and also had this option to travel? But then, okay, what kind of jobs are available if you're somebody that is living between locations or traveling a lot? It's like, well, writing would work with that, and I know that's a big part of what I'm supposed to be doing, so that would fall in. This whole video thing, I can do that one wherever. Like, the biggest thing that I have that's a holdup right now is the fact that I don't like doing them where my family's potentially going to be in the middle of it. People in general, really. Like, the park is fine because, there's a bunch of trees back here, and somewhere back there's a road, but like you can't really see that through all that. But it's like I'm far enough in the middle of the trees, and they're all widely spaced, that I'm not really worried about anybody sneaking up on me. Usually I can hear them coming. The other day I moved because there were people at the tables that are that way from me, and it's like several yards over there. But there were people there. I was going to do a video, and it's like, I don't want them to hear me talking. But then I ended up I think I just sat down that day and was reading instead. Yeah. But going back to the idea of being so paralyzed by the concern that if you don't have the whole story, you can't do anything. But realizing that we're not supposed to have the whole story, and it's a collective effort on what we're creating, what we want to experience. So where one of us has imperfections or doesn't have any ideas on what might be the best case scenario for X, Y, or Z, it leaves room for somebody else to step in and say, hey, I have a thought. What about this? So then it becomes a collaborative effort with others, right? So building bridges and, creating the path together. But we can't get there if nobody's willing to start because we're too paralyzed by our perfectionism. Or by that imposter syndrome or whatever else. All the things that block us. Doubting ourselves, doubting that others will want to join in the effort, whatever. Yeah. $36 and I don't feel like I'm done yet, but maybe I am. Who knows? I don't know. Might have to go skate today. I have not done that in a little while. I think I'm about caught up on having stayed up till 7 o'clock in the morning the other day before I went to sleep. That was rough. That was like 9 a.m. to 7 a.m. the next day. Those aren't enjoyable anymore. But yeah, I think I'm about good there, so it might be time to go do rail again. Skate again. That's what it was. Yeah. I'm going to, after I'm done here, check the Instagram thing and see if it loaded properly and if the whole thing went. It was like 2 minutes and 22 seconds. So yeah. I don't think that shows up on the other end. I don't know if that's too long or what, but it said it was sharing to Reels, so I don't know. So I'm gonna have to check that out, but hopefully I don't have to tweak anything since it's been potentially existing out there without me doing anything with it, because I wanted to. The original video was 2 minutes and 24 seconds, and I shaved 2 seconds off because it was just like an awkward ending. So it ended up being 2:22, but then since it was stuck, I wasn't able to see if the full thing loaded or not, which is what I was wanting to do. But today it's just like, I'm not giving myself time to second guess it, to doubt it, to, just let it sit on my camera and think about it for several hours to see if I still want to post it, because all that happened was insert doubt about what I was doing. Because when I did the video and even right after, I felt confident it was what I was supposed to do. And if I had loaded it immediately, I would have felt better about it. Since I didn't load it immediately, that gave me enough time to allow the doubt to creep in, and then, suddenly when I went to post it, and I was like, ugh. Then suddenly this big, scary, awful thing again. It's like, yeah, I need to not give myself time to doubt it. We're just doing the thing. As soon as we feel okay with the thing, post the thing, move on and do something else. And don't think about it. Don't just sit there and obsess over it. Especially since it's daytime and I loaded it. I will say, I did the 2 reels and shorts on YouTube. Instagram reel, short on YouTube. And, they were both like 35 seconds-ish or something like that. And like the more time it just sat there, and then it's like, oh, that's uncomfortable. not liking this. You know, of course, the second video that I did, it's like, I should post a lot of videos so I can bury it, right? So it's still there, but maybe it's not as noticeable on the algorithm or whatever because it got other stuff put on top of it. And it's like, I had wasted so much time delaying posting the second one that I posted everything else that I would have posted. So it's like they're burying it's not an option. And yeah, oops. Today, I'm not going to bury it, but I am going to post my pictures of the vultures after I'm done. So there's that. They're just silly. But yeah, this is me. And the sun is just like, it's like not even a big spot of sun peeking through these leaves, but every now and then it's just like that's all I'm seeing is the reflection of the sun on my face. Okay. Yeah, right there. Oh, anyway, so I posted the shorts and then, or like the reels, and then I felt all weird about it, and it's just like, you know, and then of course I'm doing what I felt like I could do easier. We're just commenting on other people's posts when I see something that I feel like I can contribute to the conversation on. And of course, since I opened my page up again, there's been some people that have clicked on my comment and then started following me, I think probably because they saw the comment or whatever. But it's like there's been a few comments where it's like, you know, gotten like 38 likes or whatever. It's like, ooh, is that still going? People are still paying attention to that one. Well, I guess that's maybe more nerve-wracking for how long the reels sit there and people can come across them. But is what it is. By the way, I still have been feeling weird about that ever since. Well, the other day day before maybe, I got on Instagram and saw that I had a message request. And I clicked on it. It was some girl talking about how there's been a whole lot of difficult things going on in her life recently. And she's having to live with her mom, and, you know, that's not going well, and, you know, various things on that end. And she said that she was thankful because it was like there was something that was going on, and then my reel popped up. And she said it happened like 2 days, because of course that's all the reels that I've done. But it's like 2 times that it's happened. She had something that was, you know, kind of a frustrating situation, and then I posted a reel and the message resonated. It's like, good. That makes me feel better about what I'm doing, especially in that space. Still awkward, you know, but then it made me feel more confident that I need to continue doing that. Even though obviously that one's a little trickier. Because like the biggest thing is, okay, like channeling, right? So you open yourself up to whatever message comes through. That's basically how that thing is working. It worked the first time I was writing it. And it's like, hey, I should do this. But then I didn't like it that it seemed scripted. And then the second time, it was still scripted to a degree, but I was still, or that time I tried to memorize more of it and not share it just straight reading, because I didn't like that. Didn't like the one that was straight reading, but it was my start point. But then I did the next one, but it still sounded rehearsed because it was. So today's was, we're throwing all that by the wayside and hoping for the best. And the process was still mostly the same, except for I didn't obsess over it the entire time. It was just whatever's coming through and let that be the thing. Still hard. Still awkward walking away with the possibility of not knowing what it's going to do or how it's going to be received or anything. It's like, it's still part of what I feel like I'm supposed to be doing. So alas, we will do it. and be thankful for the little things that come along that support that it was a good thing that happened, even if it felt incredibly uncomfortable. Anyway, yeah. What time is it? It's 4 o'clock. Kind of feel like I might go ahead and wrap this up. I feel like I'm at the point with these where it's like slowing down on the need for it to go on forever. It's like, yeah, I've had some messages recently about letting it be okay to open up and share your heart with the world around you, because the world needs it. And it's like, but it's still complicated, and it's still like, the thing I've been protective of my entire life, and I've always shut down. It's like shut down when things get too hard or scary when it comes to other people. But then I've essentially beat myself up for it in various ways. Like the things that the world didn't approve of my existence or about me, I took that and like it became something I turned against myself. So world seems to have a problem with my existing, like back in high school and whatnot. So then it became a thing where there for a while I was like beating myself over the head with a hairbrush, because the same reason people resort to cutting themselves, I think, is to release some of the pain, but for me, not have the obvious aftermath of having done so. So I used to just like beat myself over the head with a hairbrush. Just like it didn't solve anything. But if I'm there crying and it didn't seem like it hurt anything either, it was just somewhere for it to go. I've talked about how when I realized that I had like 5 totes of stuffed animals, it's like, hey, that's easy purge, right? And then once, I picked up one that had been my favorite when I was growing up, and I spent so much time with that one, it's like, just picking it up, it's like I was just hit by this wave of sadness. And I realized that when I had nowhere to go with the pain that I was picking up from the world around me, like beating myself over the head with the hairbrush was one way of dealing with that, but the other was channeling it into the stuffed animals, because I had nowhere else to go with it. I didn't know what else to do with it. Now I might skate, or just go walk in nature, or come sit under a tree, or whatever, right? So now it's like there are other ways I'm able to deal with it. But when I didn't have those things, it's like I was just doing whatever I could to get by. So channeling the energy into stuffed animals was one thing that happened. I did wash them and clear them before donating them, the ones that I decided to donate. There's a bunch that I am keeping because they were so important to me at that point in my life. Like the biggest thing is I feel like the part of me that was never felt safe, because nothing in my world seemed to give me the feelings of safety, because it wasn't safe, right? So what I had was the toys, right? So the stuffed animals, that was the biggest one. But I've talked about how I felt like there were some of my gem dolls that I had when I was little. I was giving them to Gracie at one point because it's like, what am I going to do with them? I don't have any kids, and then I was like, I washed them up, and then I got this really strong sense that I was supposed to keep at least 2 of them out. And so the 2 that I pulled, one was this character called Dance, and because she's got more colors in her hair than any of the rest of them, like, Kimber's like this bright red kind of color, but it's like all red. And then there's like Aja, whatever. One of them has got straight blue, another's got straight purple, and it's like Gem's got all light pink. But then Dance had the multicolors. So it's like, as soon as I saw that one, it's like, this is the one I resonated the most with. I can just tell, right? Because I'm all about the colors. But then it was like, okay, so I got this one, but I feel like I need to pull out another one. And it was this Jetta character. And she's got black hair with silver streaks. And it's like my light and shadow aspect. Unifying the two aspects of myself to find my sense of safety in the world, right? So it's like a representation of me all along the way. So like the little things that I've decided that I feel like I'm supposed to, I feel like my future space is going to have a representation of all the things that I was really into as a little kid, but yet never fully safe to embrace in myself, for various reasons. So it's like the stuffed animals. Obviously, I'm not going to play with those at this point in time, but they can go on a shelf and I can remember them very well. Gem dolls too. Just like reminders of the journey, or on the journey, however you want to look at it. Anyway, on that note, I'm going to wrap it up. And maybe skate, maybe not. Probably skate. Haven't done it in a while. Random side note that I just thought of. So I talked about the kid that my mom used to babysit, and then we ended up going. We went to we graduated the same year, and then went to the same college for undergrad. And graduated 2006. He was a dentist, and I went for psychology. I was walking my dogs over at the high school around the tennis courts today, and I happened to see him. He was there with his, I don't know if both were his sons, at least one was a son, playing tennis. And, he gets up and is picking up tennis balls that are on the court with him. And, Taz got all excited because he found a tennis ball, but then he saw that this guy was picking them up, and he was more interested in the ones that he had because, of course, he's looking for the opportunities for somebody to play with him. So I talked to this guy for a little bit. He was one. His brother was one of the bullies. He was one. I've always, the guy that I was talking to, I've always loved this dude because he never was one of the bullies. Like, even though he was, we had a lot of the same classes growing up and everything. And he was around. He knew of the bullying, I'm sure, because he'd have to live under a rock to not. But he never contributed. So he's like always been one of my favorite people, and honestly, the only dentist that I trust. Thanks to a whole lot of bad dental experiences. And it was mainly with one dentist in particular that it was. Yeah, but it was like bad enough that shit stayed, right? Because that was the guy that, the bad dentist was the one that, I got there for a 10:30 appointment. He gave me a shot to numb me up and then disappeared and didn't come back until the numbness was wearing off. And then by that time I was so tired of sitting there that when he said to raise my hand if I was feeling anything, I was just sitting on it because I didn't want to stay there any longer. Like, I have to sit here because I had a damn appointment, but I do not want to have to do this again, so I'm just going to sit here and take it. So I felt every single bit of that damn appointment, and like drilling and everything. It's just like, it was miserable. I don't even know if I told my mom about it afterwards, but she was tired of waiting, because this was like several hours. And at one point I don't know how many times she asked about it, but I'm trying to figure out if I was done. That might have been what spurred the guy on to remembering that I was even there. But anyway, anyway, again, I'm gonna wrap it up. As always, I appreciate you. Until next time, see ya.